Hi, I'm Tana Amen, and I'm here with my husband, Dr. Daniel Amen.
We're so excited to be with you. Brain Warrior, that's what we want for you.
In fact, today's really exciting because we're going to share with you the idea that brain aging is optional. So unlike what most people assume, you don't have to just get old and lose your memory like a lot of people think. So it's going to be really fun. But first I want to ask, did you do the challenge we extended to you the last time we were together? Did you fill out your one-page miracle and bring it back with you? Because we want to dig into that and talk about that. We want to talk about why you're joining us. What is the reason that you decided that you needed to make a change? There's obviously something going on, and you want to make a change, whether it's that you want a better memory, maybe you just want to prevent something bad from happening. Is it because you've tried other programs and failed repeatedly? And is it because you don't feel good about yourself, or you wake up in the morning and you have no energy and you're tired and depressed?
Or people have IBS,
right?
Or they have rosacea or pain. What we've discovered, people who do the program that we're giving you, their pain is better, their energy is better, their memory is better, they sleep better, they make better decisions. And then the thing that I get really excited about is their husbands get better.
Right.
Or
the women are the leaders in the household.
Children get better, or the people at work get better. One of my favorite stories is Marianne. So Marianne was the Western Regional Director at Franklin Covey, so a very high-end business consulting firm. And at 59, she almost quit the job she loved because she had chronic pain, she was overweight, brain fog, and her daughter, who'd followed my work as a psychiatrist, gave her one of our books, and within 2 months, the brain fog had lifted. And I'm also a consultant at Franklin Covey, and I was so excited because a year later, she introduced me to give a lecture to their executive board, and she told them this story, and she said, for my 60th birthday doing the Amen's program, I got a fast-acting brain with the wisdom of age. And in the process, she lost 60 pounds.
And that's so exciting.
Her daughter, who is 140 pounds overweight, saw the benefit to her mother, and her daughter lost 140 pounds. So Marianne is a brain warrior.
And make no mistake, it's the women in the house that really change not only their homes, but their communities, their workplaces. It's the women that really make the difference.
When guys get it, they are marvelous leaders.
Yeah, it's really fun to see.
You're actually right. When we did this big program at Saddleback Church, 15,000 people signed up, and 83% of them were women. I was so irritated by that. But, you know, if you're a guy, if you're a girl, if you want to change your life, stay with us.
Right.
Because we're going to give you those tools.
And I want to touch on that because that's like one of the things that people say. It's like, well, I don't have family support. You know, I'm just going to challenge you to go be the change you want to see. I mean, I'm a pretty intense person, but
really,
but when I decide to make a change, I'm like not kidding about it. So when I decided to make this change in my life and bring it into my home because I wanted my daughter to grow up very differently than I did, you already ate really healthy compared to 90% of the population, but Daniel wasn't on quite the same intensity of journey that I was on. So
until.
Wait. When we first started it, I would, there was no bread in my house. There were no grains in my house. There was no dairy in my house. And so he came home one day and he's like, well, that's not fair because like, I might want some of this. Bread is not of the devil. And I'm like, then go out and get it and don't bring it home. So go get something outside. So that's what I mean. All of a sudden one day he comes home and he's like, bread is of the devil. so
well,
they will get it.
I read a study that showed as your weight goes up, the actual physical size and function of your brain goes down. So my friend Cyrus Raji, when he was at the University of Pittsburgh, and now he's replicated on 1,000 people, that if you're in the overweight category, so your BMI, normal is between 18.5 and 25. If your BMI is between 25 and 30, you're overweight, you actually had 4% less brain tissue, and your brain looked 8 years older than healthy people. If you were obese, if you were between 30 and higher, you actually had 8% less brain tissue, and your brain looked 16 years older than healthy
That's
people.
crazy.
When I read that, I lost 30 pounds.
Right.
And at that point, bread was of the devil, because grains are high glycemic, which means they turn to sugar very quickly in your body. They're also pro-inflammatory. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be a dinosaur.
And what's fun?
Dinosaur, big body, little brain, you're going to become extinct. And so I got really serious, and who better to get serious with than a very serious warrior herself.
Right. And what's really fun about that is that I was no longer in that war myself. When you have a partner that finally gets it and really gets on board with you, there's like no stopping you. It's amazing what can happen. So stick with it.
As Tana said, be the change you want to seek. That's what we've seen. So many people have the excuse, well, my husband won't do it, my children won't do it, bad food
and
at work.
then all of a sudden we'll get the reports, oh my gosh, my husband decided to do it. Now he's annoying me. He came home and threw the toaster away. Like, it's fun. But really what we're going to talk about today, I want to make sure that you get this message. We're going to talk about a future of pain or a future of just vibrancy, vibrant health, vibrant life, and having a fast-acting brain like you talked about. And so we need you to really picture what your life is going to look like if you stay on the path you're on, versus you take the time to do this and you break through to the other side and you go down that other path, what your life will look like over there. And a lot of people will say to us, well, yeah, I can imagine it, but I can't imagine getting there. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today.
So it's actually a hypnotic exercise I've been done with my patients for 30 years. So I'll put them in a trance, and all I want you to do is close your eyes and really go with me on the imagery I'm going to give you. So I want you close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and then I want you to imagine yourself on a road. And as you walk down the road, pretty soon it's split, so there's a fork in the road. And if you go down the left side, I want you to do that with me now. You're just doing the standard American diet. You're just eating fast food, quick food, processed food that when you actually look on the label, there's about 30 different ingredients. So just do what's simple, cheap, quick, and easy in your mind. And really, you're not paying attention at all. What is your life like now? What will it be like in 4 months? What will it be like in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, even 30 or 50 years? Because I know what it's going to look like.
Right.
Hypertension, diabetes, obesity, tiredness,
cancer,
brain fog, and cancer. So go down that road, feel what it's actually going to be like in your body. So let's go back to the beginning of the fork, and now let's go down the right side. So what will your life be like if you become a brain warrior and you do the right things virtually all the time? What will your life feel like even a few days from now, weeks from now, months from now, years from now? Notice what will happen with your energy, your memory, your cognitive clarity. You have a choice in which road you go down.
Right. So I love this exercise. I've done this exercise. It's extremely powerful, and I love the hypnotic approach to it. And I like to add something to that just because, of how I really want to dig in. And so after this, I like to journal it. And so write it down. And so I'll spend some time, a lot of time actually, going over what you just said. I just write those details down so I don't forget them. And I have something to put up on my mirror. And then I'll go down the fork in the road where I can break through and get to the other side. And if you don't have pictures of yourself when you were really healthy and you looked amazing and you were vibrant, get pictures of someone else that you really look up to, that's a mentor to you. And what is your life going to look like when and if, I'm going to say when, you go down that fork in the road and you become a warrior and you're not overweight? You can put on your favorite pair of jeans and feel amazing. You can rock your mission. You don't have pain. Your memory's better. You're vibrant. You don't feel depressed every day. And really spend some time writing in detail what your life's going to be like, what your finances going to be like, what is, where are you going to live, what is your social circle going to look like. Spend some time with it because it's really important. And I actually put mine for a long time right where I could see it and regularly go over it. And it's a powerful.
And it fits with the one-page miracle. So
Perfectly.
on this page, what do you want? But then see a future of illness or a future of health, and then make that decision. There's actually something in the news recently that's exactly what we're talking about. So remember the story of the 49er linebacker, Chris Borland, who after his rookie season, he decided to retire. Why? Because he's doing the fork in the road exercise. If I continue to play, I think of Junior Seau and Mike Webster and all the NFL players
there's no glory
who
worth
killed
that.
themselves, who suffered with dementia. Or yes, I could make more money, but that's the road that it's possible. I don't want to be on that road. I want a future of health, of energy, of cognitive clarity.
That.
And there is no amount of money that will keep me on the wrong road. Now, a lot of people go, well, I don't want to go on the right road because the food is awful. And it's one of the big lies.
Right.
And I think one of Tana's greatest gifts, besides she's a warrior, she's serious, she's also beautiful and smart, but the recipes that she has for you, they taste awesome. So they're made with the healthy ingredients on the planet. But her biggest gift is taking really healthy food and making it taste amazing. So one of the little lies people have is, I don't want to suffer. And there's no suffering required.
So I just made it a game because, you often say that I went from disaster to master.
Oh my God, so awful in the kitchen. It was frightening.
No, he's not kidding. When we talk about the fact that I'd rather be a warrior, I really would rather be a warrior and not in the kitchen. But I decided to do it not because I love cooking. I learned to do it because it became a mental shift for me. This is a gift. I like to serve. I like to help people. This is a gift not only to myself, but for my family. And so when I put that spin on it, it became easy. And one of my favorite things to do is rehabilitate recipes. I figured out what are my daughter's favorite recipes.
She was actually on ABC's Recipe Rehab and rehabilitated pumpkin bars, of all things, to make pumpkin bars taste healthy. And our 11-year-old daughter knows how to make them.
Right.
I mean, I think that's
she
one
cooks
of the,
all the time.
It's one of the secrets to getting her healthy is that mom cooks with her in a healthy way all the time.
Now she cooks all the time by herself at 11. So lots of fun. And that's why I learned how to rehab recipes, was so that I can get my daughter to eat them. You have to figure out what their favorite foods are. Don't try to torture people.
There is no suffering required. Okay, today what we told you is how to reverse the aging process. And we talked about Andy. So Andy was a professor of business at the University of Michigan. And I went to the University of Michigan and gave them a lecture on my work on ADD. And he's like, well, my daughter has ADD. So he decided to bring her to one of the Amen clinics and as a way so that she wouldn't feel singled out, he decided he'd get scanned too. And Andy's brain looked awful. And I'm like, Andy, what are you doing? And he was 100 pounds overweight. And this was before I knew about the dinosaur syndrome. As your weight goes up, the size and function of your brain goes down. I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, nothing. And I'm like, how much do you drink? And he said, not much. Now, I've been a psychiatrist for a long time, so you always realize you have to ask the follow-up question is, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, I have one or two when I get home from work, and one or two with dinner, and one before bed. And I'm like, every night? And he's like, yeah, but it's not a problem. I've never been arrested. My wife doesn't complain. And I'm thinking it's because she likes you drunk. But his scan horrified him. Now, Andy didn't really get it the first time, but the scan really disturbed him, which I thought was a good idea because I wanted him to change his behavior. He came back a couple of months later and he's like, scan me again. And it was the same awful thing. And at that point, See, I'm hoping you don't need as much encouragement as Andy needed, but at that point, he became a warrior.
Right.
He stopped drinking. He lost 100 pounds. He exercised consistently. And a decade later, he calls me up and he said, I want another scan. And I'm like, why? He said, well, I didn't really like being a business professor. He's 53 when I first saw him. He went back to medical school
That's
in his
amazing.
50s. He said, I don't actually like hanging out with people who are 63 years old
That's
because
funny.
they think too slowly. He said, I've revolutionized my life. I want to see what my brain looks like. In fact, had exercised
That's awesome.
every day for 1,743 days. And I'm like, how did you do that? He said, I didn't want to break the streak. So here's a little secret for you. It's the Jerry Seinfeld
Right.
way of getting healthy. So Jerry Seinfeld wanted to be a great comedy writer, and he realized he had to write every day. So whenever he would finish a day of writing at least 30 minutes, he'd go to the calendar, put a red circle on it and an X through it, and that meant he did the day. And after about 3 weeks, he's like, I'm never stopping because I don't want to break
They want
the
to see
streak.
the gaps, right?
So that's what Andy did. And when we scanned him a decade later, his brain had literally aged backward.
That's exciting.
That's what we want for you. 3 strategies. Brain envy. You have to care about your brain. I don't know how else to say this. Freud was wrong. It's not penis envy. Freud was about 2.5 feet too low in your body. It's brain envy. You have to care about your brain. It's the most important part of you. So we get people to care, and then it's avoid anything that hurts your brain and do things that help it. So you just have to fill out that list. And when Chloe, our daughter, was in 2nd grade, I actually went and I go, can you kids help me fill out the list? And they were actually really good.
Yeah, it was fun.
In fact, when I said orange juice, most of them put it in the bad category.
Right, 'cause the sugar.
because there's too much sugar
So,
in there.
so if if a 2nd grader can get this, if an 8-year-old or 9-year-old can get this, this isn't hard. It's a paradigm shift. It's about changing your mindset, making the decision to do it, and then we're going to show you the steps. It's not hard. It's just about getting it done and knowing what to do.
Well, and it's this game I want you to play, so it's very practical. And Chloe and I have been playing it since she was 2. Is this good for my brain, or is it bad for it? And so if we just think of, so what's bad for your brain? Head trauma, obviously. Drugs, really bad idea. Marijuana is not good medicine. It drops brain function significantly, as does alcohol. Having diabetes,
Right.
as your grandmother
Destroys
knew,
brain
right?
function.
Hypertension. As blood pressure goes up, blood flow to the brain goes down. Not sleeping. Having sleep apnea actually triples the risk for Alzheimer's disease. Depression doubles the risk in women and quadruples it in men.
Right.
Having untreated ADD triples the risk.
And I want to add something here because a lot of people don't make the connection between what they eat, how they're living their lifestyle, and brain function. I love you talk about the dinosaur syndrome because it makes it really clear. But let me just point out to you, Alzheimer's disease is now referred to as type 3 diabetes. So what you're eating is either really helping your brain function like you talked about, or it's actually destroying it, just like diabetes literally destroys your body.
Well, and that's why high blood sugar levels are bad for you. In fact, they did a study at Kaiser on 57,000 people. Fasting blood sugar should be about 84. For every point above 84, you had a 6% increased risk of being diagnosed with diabetes in the next 10 years.
Right.
And so keeping your blood sugar in a healthy range, and a lot of times doctors will go, oh, your blood sugar is 95. It's normal, but it's high normal, and what you need to do to reverse brain aging is to be in the optimal range, not in the normal range. Because high blood sugar, even high normal blood sugar, is associated with blood vessels becoming brittle, and they're more likely to break, which will cause a stroke. And having a stroke increases the risk for dementia tenfold.
Well, not to mention, it just totally ruins your day.
It ruins a lot of people's day
Right.
in your family. And so low estrogen increases aging. I know there's a lot of controversy. Should I take bioidentical hormone replacement? The answer is yes. Because
If you need it.
low estrogen is associated with low blood
So
flow to the
see,
brain,
you
as
want
low
to see someone who
testosterone
knows
is.
all about hormones. You don't want to take more than you need, and you want to take the right kind at the right times.
Right. And here at Amen Clinics, we actually have integrative medicine physicians that can help you with it. In addition, being exposed to environmental
Right.
toxins increases your risk of dementia. And so cosmetologists, which are around toxins a lot, actually have a very high risk of dementia.
Did you know, this is so interesting. So there's this term called obesogens. Obesogens are things in the environment that actually, I mean, how unfair is this? You can be eating right, but if you are exposed to certain things in your environment, including food, it actually prevents you from losing weight and can cause you to become obese. And what's so interesting, they actually found that people who live in what you call, the Bible Belt is widening. So the states of Oklahoma, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, right. So those states, I just found this fascinating. When they studied this, they found that the people in those states, especially the closer they got to the Mississippi River, they were exposed to more and more obesogens, and they got fatter and fatter. They got heavier and heavier. They were putting on more weight, even the ones who were trying to lose weight.
So the
And it was
toxins in your
because
environment.
it was because of the Mississippi River having so much dumped into it. So, and people using it as a dumping ground for like industry.
So if you're not a warrior for your health, and really learn about it and understand it, these things can literally steal
So you need to
your
know.
happiness, your mind, and your health.
And what's exciting is you can actually easily get tested for most of that stuff. Most of you won't have to, but you can get tested even for some of the odd things. It's not that hard to change. You just got to know.
So brain envy, avoid bad, do good. And do good is having the right mindset, eating the right food, working out your brain, physical exercise, but not too much.
Yeah, too much exercise is just as bad as no exercise at all. So we want you to exercise smarter, not harder.
Certain supplements that we'll talk about, especially a multiple vitamin fish oil, optimize your vitamin D level.
Right.
And spending time with healthy people. I always say this, the fastest way to get healthy, if you want the one thing to do, the fastest way to get healthy is to find the healthiest people you can stand and then spend
Absolutely.
as much
People are
time around
contagious.
him or her
People are contagious.
as possible.
I want to touch on one thing because it's so simple and it's so important, and it's a big reason that when people talk about, I failed so many other programs, well, there's a lot of reasons people fail the average diet, but because people shouldn't be dieting, frankly. But
What's the first three letters of diet?
D-I-E. But the root word actually means in Greek is way of life. And that's really what we want for you, is a way of life. When we talk about diet, we're talking about nourishing your body with the right foods.
Brain warriors way of life. That's what we want for you, because when your brain works right, you work right.
Right,
And
so-
when your brain is troubled, you have trouble in your life.
So one thing I wanted to point out, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't be dieting, but one of the reasons when people talk about, but I've tried so many different programs, I've tried even ones that are healthy and they don't work. Part of that's because they're not personalized to you. And we're going to talk more about that later, because you can go on the best program in the world, but if it's not personalized to you and you don't know some of the basic things like what you talked about, knowing your important numbers. Do you know how simple it is to fix if you have a low vitamin D, testosterone, or low thyroid? It's easy fix. But if those three things are off, you'll never
And you're
succeed
off.
at any program, ever. So we want to teach you how to own your health, to be your best advocate.
So reversing brain aging is not hard. Three things: brain envy, gotta care. Avoid anything that hurts your brain. Do things that help your brain. In the next video, we're actually gonna give you the 12 steps that we use at the Amen Clinics to optimize people's brains and their lives. They're so powerful. So many people go, what's the one thing I should do? Well, the one thing you should do is get your mind right. But these 12 steps are really the brain warrior's way to reverse aging, optimize your physical health, and your mental health.
And we have so much fun going through the feedback that you give us. So do us a favor, leave feedback below. Ask questions. We're going to do our best to answer as many as we can personally, but we want all of your feedback, not just your challenges, which we want to hear because we want to be able to address them. We want to hear your success stories too. What's working for you so we can share it.
We have a very special gift for you.
So I've included 5 of Daniel's favorite recipes. Like I said, I love to rehabilitate recipes, and I want to know what you think of them. So when you leave your comments below for us, tell me not only what you think about the recipes, but tell me what your favorite foods are that might need to be rehabilitated.
You will love them. In the next lesson, we are going to give you a very specific 12-step plan. We call it the Brain Warriors Way to revolutionize your brain and your body. So make sure that you stay tuned with us. It'll just make all the difference.